A true friend never gets in your way unless you happen to be going down. Arnold H. Glassow. Quick facts. 86% of teens say they know someone who suffers from a mental illness. Half of all teens say classmates or friends are mostly compassionate about those with mental illness, and the other half are not compassionate. 73% of high school and college students know someone who is taking medication because of a mental health issue. Okay, so this video is formatted a bit differently because now I'm going to be talking about people who have seen their friends go through some of the problems we just talked about. There are 3 stories, so I'm going to use the names Pam, Mary, and Jen. First, we'll begin with Pam. Pam was a sophomore in college when her roommate and friend started dating someone who wasn't in their social group. Let's call him Sean. Eventually, her friend rarely hung out with them, and at first, Pam figured it was just her friend branching out with Sean. Soon, though, she figured out it wasn't a healthy relationship, and noticed negative changes in her friend. Pam figured out that Sean was on and dealt drugs. When Pam saw them together on campus, he would stand between them physically, and eventually hostility grew between Pam and Sean. Her friend told her that she was going to Nashville for an abortion because her boyfriend wanted it, but she had to pay for it because Sean believed it was her fault that she got pregnant. She said that it was for the best because he was on drugs enough that there was probably something wrong with the baby anyway. Pam tried to talk her out of it, but she wouldn't listen. When Pam's friend came back, she slept in the dorm for the weekend so that there would be someone there to watch over her. At that point, Pam was at a loss and furious with Sean. Eventually, her friend asked to move out of the dorm room in the middle of the semester because she felt like she was being torn between her boyfriend and Pam. After she moved out, Pam didn't see her much until one day when a friend ran into a lab and told her that her ex-roommate had just been hit by a car. Pam rushed out and spent the rest of the afternoon on one side of the hospital waiting room and Sean and his friends on the other. Pam had to tell the nurse how to contact her friend's family because Sean had isolated her friend from them too. Her friend was hurt pretty badly and had to drop out of school, and Pam didn't hear from her much after that. 3 years later, her friend walked into Pam's place of employment. Pam was excited to see her, and learned that her friend was in rehabilitation, and Sean had left her. She told Pam that she knew she had been right about him all along, and she was so sorry that she shut her out. Pam reflects, "That was kind of gratifying to hear, but all I could think about was, how could I have reached her before everything got so bad? I was young, smart, confident, and probably self-righteous about it. I was angry that she didn't see what I saw in him and what it was doing to her. I learned a lot of lessons on how to deal with people that just don't or can't see things from my perspective, but I still regret not being able to reach her." Pam's friend moved on and eventually went back to college. Later on, she contacted Pam and told her that she was a Christian and married with children, a master's degree, and working in a job she loves. It still bothers Pam that she couldn't reach her. So much so that she uses it as a cautionary tool when talking to teenagers now. Not just her roommate's downward spiral, but her inability to understand that she just couldn't see things from Pam's perspective, and that her anger about that probably helped him isolate her even more. Pam continues by saying that there were many confrontations, and that the boyfriend even threatened her, but her roommate wouldn't believe it. The friend told Pam to stop criticizing her boyfriend, or else she wouldn't stick around her. Pam felt caught between doing what was right and cutting off her friend. She felt it was a horrible burden to know that she was the only one her friend talked to about it, but she wasn't really allowed to bring it up, not even to her friend. Pam gives this advice to those of you who have struggling friends. First, understand that you really don't know all of the answers. Even if your friends won't seek help, you should, and probably not from a peer. Having a trustworthy adult to talk with can help you gauge your responses so that you won't shut that friend out, and also help you recognize things that you might be in too deep to see for yourself. You may think that everything she tells you has to remain confidential, but an adult might see it as a huge red flag. Find someone you can trust to talk to about it. It could be so important to leave the door open just a crack, even if you have to eventually mostly shut it. You also need to know that you just can't fix some things. Someone else's choices are not your fault or responsibility. Continue to try to live a strong Christian life. You never know when that friend will wake up and look for someone that they can trust. They may call you a prude, a stick in the mud, or whatever now, but they'll probably remember what you stood for when they start looking for a way out. She also reminds us that God knows what we're going through. He will help you through whatever trials you are faced with, and will not falter. Psalms 9:9. The Lord is a stronghold for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. Now we turn to our friend Mary. Mary had a close friend who told her that she was, and still is, dealing with severe anxiety. Her anxiety was hindering her from enjoying life, and even affects her marriage some now, although they are getting counseling, which has helped. Throughout this whole ordeal, though, both Mary's friend and her husband lost their faith in God. Her friend still suffers, but takes medication for her anxiety. Mary was sad, disappointed, and frustrated that her friend didn't seek God's will, and truly believed that, had she trusted him, she would have found peace and happiness. It's her prayer that her friend finds her way back to God soon. Mary did encourage her friend to find a Christian counselor, since her friend had been raised in a Christian home, and Mary felt it was important to look for some help from someone with a Christian background. Her advice is, find a Christian mentor they can trust. Someone who will be objective, honest, compassionate, and biblical-based to help navigate them through their struggles and life choices. Also, find a church home and become involved in service to others. Helping others can really help you, too. And know that we all need to give ourselves a break sometimes. We will never be perfect, but we will always have Jesus and his example to help us know which direction to go. Trust him, follow him. We may not always have the answer, but he does. I just want to take a moment to explain why I told this story, since it doesn't have a happy ending. I just want you to realize that sometimes situations just can't be in your control, and not all stories have a happy ending. I know that can be a saddening thought, but at the end of the day, you can't change your friend. Your friend has to change themselves. And what's more, they have to want to change. No matter how much you ask for them to seek help, or you seek help for them yourself, they may not be receptive to it. I think the most important thing is to know that you tried to help them and pray for them to find the right guidance and help that they need. Encouragement always helps, even if it doesn't seem to. When you encourage them, it plants a small seed in their minds that may help them in the future to seek the right help that they need. If anything, take it as a learning experience for yourself, so that you can help give courage to others like you who have dealt with their friends' problems. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Last, but certainly not least, we move on to our friend Jen. Jen was in 8th grade with a small group of friends when she had a faint notion that her friend wasn't happy, but she was young, and so it wasn't really on her radar much. When Jen moved up to high school, she kind of lost touch with her friend. Her school was big, and they didn't have the same classes. Eventually, people asked her, and she asked around herself if anyone had seen her friend lately. No one had in a week, so she tried to contact her friend but didn't get a response. She says, we wondered if they had to go out of town or something. It never occurred to us to ask a teacher, and it turns out that even if they had known, they couldn't have told us anything. Jen's mom got a phone call one day, and afterwards sat down with Jen. Her mom explained that there was a doctor on the phone who wanted to talk to her, but that Jen couldn't discuss it with anyone at school. She quickly found out that her friend had slit her wrists, but had been found in time. Jen's friend was quiet, beautiful, popular with guys, smart and funny, yet at that point in time was in a psychiatric hospital, and Jen was the only one her age she was willing to contact. It was a surprise to Jen, because they hadn't really talked much before her friend disappeared, but after the phone call, Jen went into 2 interviews so that the doctors could confirm that she could handle the situation. She was trained on how to act with her friend. Jen states, it's all a blur now. I just remember that what they were saying was mostly common sense to me. When I told them that, they said that was probably why she wanted to see me, and why they were going to let her. When I would talk to her, I knew that we were being recorded, but I don't know if she did. We talked about nonsense things mostly, catching up on what was going on with people at school. Just casual freshman stuff, really. She just needed someone her age to talk to, someone that she knew wouldn't make it worse by telling everyone at school. This went on for weeks, and it was Jen's first experience keeping a confidence from people around her. She wouldn't respond if someone asked about her friend at school. Jen writes, her parents were so grateful to me, and I always felt so weird about that. Like I had been tapped to be a grown-up, and I really didn't know how or why at the time. Years later, my mom told me that it was because the doctor said that I had an old soul, and that they felt she needed to spend time with someone her age that was empathetic and level-headed. They had actually given my mom some signs to look for in me in case I struggled with the situation. Mom says that I never did. I was just careful and thoughtful when I talked to her about it. I don't remember that. I just remember it was odd. Jen eventually lost touch with her friend, but knew that she had enrolled in a new school and seemed to be content and busy there. She says that, "I think about her sometimes when I hear about teenagers cutting themselves. As a parent, I look back and pray that was just a singular event in my friend's life." Jen advises to those of you with a struggling friend, even if she won't, you need to speak up. Urge your friend to get help. Tell a preacher, guidance counselor, your parents, anyone that you feel can help. You probably won't have any answers that will fix her problems. You never know. Just having someone listen to her could be her saving grace. However, you can talk about how God has helped you in your life. You can remind her that God loves her. He will not forsake her. You can never promise that God will make her problems go away, but He can help her through them. I just want to remind everyone with a friend out there that sometimes the only thing you can do is encourage them. If you have a friend that is struggling with one of the problems I've made a video about, I encourage you to watch it, because I go into a bit deeper detail as to how to help that person. Also note that every situation is different, so please don't go into it alone. Talk to an adult you trust about it, because at least then they can help you respond to the situation. I hope these videos have helped so many of you out there, and if it has, don't hesitate to put that in the comments below. So without further ado, I leave you with this last verse. Isaiah 40, 28 through 31. Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He does not grow faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might he increases strength. Even youth shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint.